Hello, and good morning. Welcome to Journey to SEA 2024. This is Shelley-Ann Edwards Barron, your creative writing specialist, here to talk all things report and narrative writing. And today we're actually going to be talking a little bit about sentences and fixing some sentence issues. If you're new to the live, let me just give you a bit of a heads up. The recordings for all the ones that you may have missed are located on my Facebook page, Wood Coach Youth. They're located at the SEA Peaceful Approach group, as well as they're available on YouTube, Wood Coach Limited. Just go to lives and you would get the whole list. Today is actually episode 25. So if this is the first live that you're seeing, then you've missed quite a bit. We began at April. And we've been covering lots of different topics to help you with the narrative writing and the creative writing. Recently, I've started also dealing with some comprehension issues and grammar, spelling, different things so that, you'd get a more holistic approach to supporting your child or your students with their writing. So, a little bit about me, just in case you don't know who I am, other than being a creative writing specialist, what I do is to focus on something called multisensory learning. Now, I believe that learning about writing should be fun, it should be interactive and interesting, and we talk a lot about, making things practical and hands on. But when it comes to writing, many teachers and parents are a bit stuck on exactly how to do that. Multisensory learning allows us to introduce experiments and drama and games and all sorts of different wonderful avenues for us to learn about writing, all within the creative writing classroom. So students have fun while they're learning about the key elements of writing well. So in my presentations, what I usually do is to, give some ideas about strategies and things that you can do that would help you with making writing a little bit more practical and tangible for students who are struggling with organizing their ideas. They may have lots of things like one parent told me, her son, if you ask him to tell you the story, perfectly done, you understand it, you're good. But when it comes to putting it in writing, the ideas aren't the same. So there's um there's some work to be done between that, and that's all that we're talking about. And today, our specific topics are the report prompts. And I have something in particular that I really want you to understand with report prompts. And then we're going to be looking at the problem solution side of the narratives. And finally, to close it off, I'm going to add in a bit on fixing sentences, like I said. And we're going to be particularly looking at something called run on sentences and the sentence fragments. Many students have trouble with understanding sentences. And a lot of times people go straight to the grammar to get it done, but if you know anything about me or you've seen anything I've said before, you would always recognize that I say start with the ideas. And that is how we're going to be looking at really dealing with sentence problems at the end. So let's begin with our look at the reports. I usually start with the reports. Today I have I'm trying to figure out like the best way to bring it across. I don't like to say things negatively about other people and so on, but I recently encountered a report writing structure that's being taught that is going to create a lot of problems for many students. And so in looking at the prompts that we're doing today, and I'm also going to be showing you documents from the Ministry of Education. There is a document called the 2019 Writing Exemplars. Let me get the exact title for you. I'll um I'll show you in a bit as well about sentence fragments. Okay, so yeah, I'll get when we get to that, right. Writing exemplars, specimen paper. That's how I have it labeled in my files. But it was issued by the Ministry of Education in 2019. And what that document does is that it has, you know what, let me just show you. It has a number of reports and narratives, and with grading examples and so on, so that you can actually see an idea and have a good understanding of how the reports and the narratives will be graded, so that you know what is expected of students. Now, I have a couple comments about this particular document, but it is quite useful for you to understand the way the reports are supposed to be presented. So I'm going to just scroll down quickly, past the preliminaries, and they dealt with stories first, but we're going down to reports, and so I'm heading to page 61 thereabouts for us to go through that. So you see, there's a lot of information, guidelines, and looking at examples and feedback, and um, there is actually, and as you could see, it's annotated, so you get to see where the errors are, and then there's the rubric. There's an explanation of how to use the rubric, and yeah, let me just quickly go down to 63 instead of scrolling like that. But I wanted to show this to you because this is report two. Let's go back up to report one. I wanted to show this to you because the issue that I encountered had to do with what goes into the various paragraphs of the report. Now, we have been going through the 5 paragraph structure, and we went through each paragraph. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Last week was when we completed and we did paragraph 5. And so if you go back to the last 5 sessions, you would get my explanation and understanding of what goes into each paragraph, and we explored different types of reports. Remember, we work with like about 6 different types of reports, right? Incidents, accidents, competitions, events, activities, and natural disasters. And so we looked at what goes into each paragraph for each one. Now, I always tell parents and teachers who reach out to me that the information that I'm sharing, it's not just coming from my understanding of writing as a writing specialist. And just in case you aren't aware of my background, I taught university writing for a while. I taught English as a second language. That would be teaching non-native speakers, so foreigners, native language is not English. They're learning to speak the language. So I taught that for a number of years as well. And I've been working with authors, and so writing is something that I do, excuse me, something that I engage in, and is something that I love. So I study it all the time. And so I have that background, yes. So my expertise in writing comes from multitude of places. However, this SEA exam is a particular thing, and therefore a lot of what I share with you comes from my conversations with SEA markers, as well as the documents that the ministry has put out. So when I structured my 5 paragraph format for report writing, it was not only just because of my understanding of writing and writing reports in general. It came from conversations with markers, what they look for and how they grade, as well as a look at what the ministry has shared in terms of what works and what um, doesn't work so well. So when I see a format for a report structure that includes 2 paragraphs of what happened before, in addition to the introduction, so that the main point of the report comes in paragraph 4, then I have an issue because that is not what is shared. That is not what is expected. So in even in the the larger scheme of things, we talk a lot about what does the prompt require? And the main thing, even with the 5 paragraph structure, that gives you a format and ideas on where to get information, what kind of information is needed. Your number one place for deciding what to put in a report, it begins with the prompt. And so I'm also going to show you today the 2019 SEA prompts and the 2022 SEA prompts. These are from the actual past papers, and they're actually photos. I'm going to read out the prompts because the photos that I have aren't so great, but I'll show you them anyway. Um, it it shows you what exactly should go in the prompt. Now, this that I have on screen, that prompt is not formatted according to the way the SCA prompts are actually formatted now. This was from 2019, but the prompt itself looks a bit different from what students will actually see when they go to the exam, and perchance they get the reports. Is going to look a little different from this, but I'll show you exactly what that's going to look like in a little bit. I'm showing you this to talk about that 5 paragraph structure, and I want you to notice something. So I'm going to show you this one. This is report 1, and I'll show you report 2. So I'll just scroll down quickly to that one, and we will take a look at what goes in. Notice how large this second paragraph is. It's actually longer than it's supposed to be. And if you go down to the comments in terms of the organization, we have that logical order. And then here it says, paragraph 2 was packed with too much information. A new paragraph could have started, and they gave you some guidelines there. So this kind of length in paragraph is going to be too much. And the reason being that report paragraphs tend to follow what we call that topic sentence paragraph style. So if you move on to a different aspect of the topic, you're meant to start a new paragraph, right? So that's one thing with the paragraphing. So even if you're thinking, well, okay, look, this is long, and so that is acceptable. No, it's not, as you saw the note, and this is the ministry's document, right? But what I want you to pay attention to most is how the report begins. Um, Now, here we have this is a standard format, right? It's not the only format, but it's a typical format. It's the easiest one for students to memorize. And they generally begin that way. So this prompt asks for date, time, main events, eventual winners, how the day ended. And so we have participants in the sports day, um, and then we have the different houses and an overview of the main events. And while I don't always recommend that, the point of the introduction, remember, it's a summary. So the idea is that when someone reads your report, they should be able to read that first paragraph and get the gist of what happened. So having those details here, it's fine because you're not going into an explanation. You're just pointing out, okay, this is what happened in general, and that is fine for the introduction. Now, the next paragraph, and for those of you who've been following me for a while, you know how I feel about these single word um, transitions, but it goes directly to what happened when things began. So we're already at the sports day. The vice principal is welcoming everybody to the event, and then things are beginning to the point where we have the march past and those kinds of things. That is happening right off in paragraph 2. Then let's scroll down to the next report, and by the way, this one was scored 18. All right, so let's go down to this is report 2. Notice different formatting, little smaller paragraph. But what is this one about? This one is about a class project, and we have some details what are required here. And then let's look at, so first paragraph, fairly standard. Let's go to that second paragraph. What does it say? the teacher entered the room and gave the assignment, and she put the students into the groups, gave them the instructions, and gave the group some idea of how they could put the project together. And then she left, and the students started on their work. So, all the details about what happened before happened in one, a short space of time, and two, only details that help the reader understand the context are given. And so, if you ask yourself, how did this child get this information? It's obvious. The child was in the classroom and the teacher came in and this is what she did and said. When you start to get behind that and beyond that, that's when we begin to get into trouble with what goes into that paragraph, too. And we also have to remind ourselves what is the main point of the report, the group project, and notice details about the project and what other groups did, persons involved, the results of the project. Every SEA style prompt has this kind of information, and you have the context, which would be given in those first couple of sentences. So if you go too far beyond that or too far back behind the scenes, then you're going to be getting into stuff that the report isn't asking you to write, as well as the reader doesn't want to know that. So if you have an event, unless the prompt says you are part of the committee planning the event, write about your experience, then talking about selection of venue, cleaning of venue, and, putting things together for the event, that's not in the scope of the report. It's not in the scope of what the child would know unless the child is a part of the committee. And that would be irrelevant information. Why? Because the prompt asks for something in particular. And so, all right, so let me stop sharing this one and let's take a look at the 2019 prompts, and then we would look at the 2022. Right? And so that you could see what I'm talking about when I speak about SEA style reports. Now, there are lots of different kinds of reports. People write reports for lots of different things, but not all reports are structured the same. So we really do have to pay attention to this concept of the SEA style report, the SEA style narrative. You would hear me saying that quite a lot, and that's simply because there are different styles, different types for different contexts. And in this case, we're really looking for um, the information relevant to what a student is going to be expected to do within the SEA exam structure. That's what we're looking for, right? So here are the prompts. Now, I know it's kind of fuzzy. I'll probably have to type these up at some point, to make them a lot clearer, but I just wanted you to see it's an actual photo of the exam page, right? So this is not something that I'm, suggesting, and this is widely shared out there. You can get a copy in SEA Peacefield. I know lots of other places have it as well. If you don't have a copy of the SEA report prompts, um, let me see. I do have them available on my website so that you can just download them so you can have access to them. And if you don't already have a copy of the ELA exams too, um, you can get that there. I'm going to put this in the comments. It would probably, where am I? Right. So let me just put that in the comments for you, and then I'll share that so it'll come up. All right, there. There you go. So that's the website, and let me show this one. Nice. That's the website, and That's the URL for you to get the past papers. And with those past papers, you have the ELA papers plus the creative writing for 2019 all the way up to 2023. So the two that focus on reports are 2019 and 2022. All the others are narratives. So 2020, 2021, and 2023 were all narratives. All right, so let me see. I'm going to make it a little bigger. Hopefully that might be, we'll see how that looks. Eh, time to pull out your glasses. I might need to pull out mine. But okay, let me read it for you. Um, Three students were playing with a ball in a classroom when the ball hit a light bulb, which broke. Write a report to your teacher about the incident. You may include the following details: the date, time, and place of the incident, who were involved and what happened, consequences of the incident. So the SEA style reports give you several things to work with, and you get all the information you need from the prompt to guide you into what to put in the report. So let's look at the different parts of it. So you have two sentences which give you context and directive. And then you have bullet points, which give you important details you absolutely must include, right? So when you look at the prompt itself, it tells you what to include. And you would notice that at nowhere you see anything like preparation for or anything like that. So the idea of putting what comes before is not a matter of showing all the details of the preparation. No, remember the report is precise and concise, so it has a very direct purpose. And in order to fulfill that direct purpose, you have to work with precision. And so you're following what is happening. Now, we always recommend, and when I say we, I'm talking about myself and many of the teachers that I know, but we always recommend that what happens before, because what happened before gives context. And context means where were the participants and what were they doing before the main thing happened. And that allows readers to make some informed decisions about what's going on, which is why we always recommend that. It's not a matter of giving a comprehensive review of what happened before. So here's what we're paying attention to: who were involved and what happened, consequences of the incident, and then of course date, time, place, etc. That is what goes into your paragraph one. Um, Here's another prompt. Your class recently completed a Know Your Community tour. Write a report to your principal about the tour. Notice you're always told who you're writing to and what you're writing about. So there's no guesswork. And this is why I always caution teachers: when you are giving students practice with report writing, try to model your prompts according to the way the SEA style prompts are modeled. You can just pull these documents, the past papers, and see how the prompts are modeled, because you don't want to get students coming up with their own ideas when the prompts guide them directly to what is required. So don't get them into the habit of making up things and then you giving them a guideline to make it up when there is a format already structured within the prompt. And this is where the five paragraph format actually came from for me after studying these prompts. Because, okay, so you have the date, time, and class on tour, persons met along the route. So, okay, do you just list, okay, I met these people? No, 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 because you're trying to build and maintain formal tone. And in order to build and maintain formal tone, there is always some preliminaries that have to be done. So we put those preliminaries in paragraph two and restructure them, because that is how the formal tone is maintained. And then we give the main thing, and then we give the wrapping up, and those are the five paragraphs. So persons met along the route, one paragraph. So we have the introduction, the preliminaries, persons met, places visited, what was learned. 5 paragraphs. So you see a natural kind of 5 paragraph structure coming out of the way the SEA style prompts are organized. Now, of course, that is like bare minimum. Lots of students can write more. They can do 6 paragraphs. I've known students who write so prolifically that they write 7 paragraphs, but it's not absolutely necessary. You can actually even put persons and places visited in 1 paragraph and then the lessons learned in one, and you end up with 4 paragraphs. That is also possible. It's not a hard and fast rule, but what I'm showing you is where does the idea come from and how do you know what goes into each paragraph and how to do that. So, all right, this one was on a function. We have date, time. So they always begin with the date and the time. Then they tell you what took place during the function. You have the beginning, middle, end. Details about the top entries, you include that, and you're good. So let's stop that share and let's look at the 2022 prompts. Those were also reports. Yeah, and this one is even a more horrible photo. Oh gosh, I need to adjust it. But yeah, pull out your glasses, people. Um, a medical professional visited your school and addressed your class. Write a report to your teacher about the visit. So you notice again, always told who you are writing to. So there's context, what's going on, what you're writing about, and who you're writing to, always. And yes, see, SEA 2022, this is the actual document. Then here's where we begin. The date, time, place, and the person who visited. Paragraph 1. The activities that occurred during the visit. Paragraph 2. What was learned from the visit, paragraph 3. So you can even get this down to 3 paragraphs. I do, however, recommend that activities occurred during the visit, that you break that into 3 paragraphs where you have the preliminaries, main activities, and how things closed off, and then you deal with what was learned plus your first paragraph that gives you 5. So these 3 bullet points kind of structure you for 3 paragraphs, but then the middle bit you can give a lot more details and then you get your 5 paragraphs from there. So I'm hoping that you're understanding why I'm recommending that 5 paragraph structure and why my suggestion for the 5 paragraph structure is the way it is. It's not a matter of this is how I think it could work. It's a matter of analysis and deduction and critical thinking based on the actual SEA prompts. So I really do want to caution you about some of the materials that are out there. And this is, there are textbooks and all kinds of information out there on report writing and narrative writing for SEA. Not all of them are created equal, and every booklet, every document, every structure that you work with, please go back to the ministry requirements, check to see what they're asking you to do, look at the exemplars, look at the format of the prompts, make sure you understand how the information is to be presented and don't just take the word of any text. And notice that when I share something with you, I always say this is my perspective, or I will tell you this came from this particular document with the ministry. This is something that the Ministry of Education shared, because I don't want to give you the idea of, okay, this is how I feel it should be done. I am giving you my reasons for doing it and the logical development and rationale so that you can decide, okay, this makes sense or it doesn't make sense, and how you can proceed. Because, yeah, I don't know if you noticed that. I mean, this thing really, really troubled me during this week. And I'm like, why and how? And no, please stop. Um, I want students to do well, and I think learning to write reports and develop formal tone is a valuable tool for life because it really gives students that understanding of it's like an introduction to academic writing. And like I said, I taught university for a number of years. And these are things that you repeat. You do it again in secondary school, you do it again in your first couple years of university. There's always some sort of writing structure. So the reason is, of course, the repetition and the reinforcement and different contexts. But the idea is that I know what is required at university level. I know what's required at secondary school level. While I haven't taught secondary school directly, I have done classes for secondary school students preparing for exams. My specialty area is working with students who have challenges. So, students who are on the autism spectrum, Asperger's, ADHD, and so on. So, I don't generally have like open classes for CSEC training. I do specialty classes for those students who are having like significant challenges or they're anywhere on the spectrum, any kind of learning disability, and they're having a real issue with creative writing. Those are the students that I would work with for CSEC. For primary school, I'm fairly open, but also I work primarily with students who are struggling. So if your child just needs a little tweak here and there, I'd give you some guidelines, send you some information, and then that's fine. But for students who are really struggling, then those are the ones that I would work with to help you develop the skills and strategies that you need to really develop the writing well. And when I see that kind of misinformation out there, it creates a huge problem because then half of my class time is spent trying to work around saying something unpleasant about another teacher because we're all doing our best. I just wish that people would try to align what they're doing a little bit more closely with what is required and that critical analysis and critical thinking. That is something that I value very highly, and it's something that I teach my students to do. So when students do report writing with me, we're not just, trying to fill in some details in a report. I teach them how to critically analyze a prompt and how to critically analyze their own reports. Because the critical and creative thinking, that is that's the ultimate agenda for this whole creative writing thing, right? Critical and creative thinking. So please, yeah, get a copy of the um, prompts from the 2019 and 2022 to pay attention to with your report writing. The link is on the screen. I put it in the chat, but I don't know. I think the chat doesn't always show up in SEA Peacefield. It would show up on my Facebook page, so you can check my Facebook page for this video, and that's Word Coach Youth. That would be this one, Wood Coach Youth on Facebook. Yeah, check that and you would see it. The link would come up there so you can get it easily. But yes, people, please, the paragraph that comes in paragraph 2 has a specific purpose. It's not meant to go into a whole lot of background. All it's meant to do is to create context. And your ultimate guide as to what goes into a report is housed in the prompt. And so analyzing that prompt and paying attention to that prompt is really your best bet in determining what to include. So don't take my word for it. Don't take anybody else's word for it. Look at the prompt. What is this prompt asking you to do? That is how you know what to put in the report and what goes where and how to structure your report, right? So, of course, if you want to learn more about that, um, my classes are closed for now, so I'm not doing any intake. However, in December, I'm going to be doing two things. One, I'm doing an intensive class for students, and two, I'm going to be doing a how to teach report writing seminar for teachers and parents who are interested in that kind of thing. And that originally, when I had first done it, I just completed my text, and I did it in a one day. But since we have 2 weeks between the end of school and Christmas, what I'm going to do is to spend an entire week. So altogether, you'd be getting like about 10 hours for report writing. It's likely going to be like 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And yes, I'm going to have to do it in the morning because I'll do the kids' classes in the afternoon. Um, and So you get 2 hours each day: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Each day we will be focusing on something different. And as part of it, because I believe strongly, let me get, I do have, oh, where's the textbook? I don't think I have the text here. Well, this would be as part of it. What you'd be getting is the um, guided writing journal and the practice booklet plus the textbook. So you'll be getting materials. So when you're finished with that course on how to teach, you have the resources to teach. So it's not a matter of, I'm just telling you this and then you have to go and figure it out on your own. I'm going to be giving you that step by step breakdown. Okay, this is what I do, this is how I do it. And those are just the tangible resources. I will also give you my soft copy worksheets and those types of things so that you would have materials to work with. Now, that is from beginning to end. Um, I will throw in probably a little extra for the standard fives, but this is really for standard four, so that you know what to do and how to do it, how you're going to be getting into this thing. And then there's a standard five is really meant for reinforcement and practice. Standard four is when the details are really supposed to be given. And so I'm going to go through the entire academic year, how you can do it from beginning to end. So I'll share a lot more about that by the end of this month so that you can get all the details. I'm kind of putting together the content right now so you can have that. But I'm going to extend the program so the whole week, 10 hours roughly of instruction. And so I'll be doing both narratives and reports. So first week would be reports, and then second week we'd have a separate course on narratives. So you can do one or both depending on what your needs are. All right. So yeah, I'm sorry I spent so long on that, but as you can imagine, the experience I had this week, it kind of, bothered me because the student was stuck. So Ms. Byron, you're telling me this, and I see what you're saying, and I see why you're saying it, and it makes sense. But then my teacher is using this textbook, and this textbook is telling otherwise, and that doesn't make sense. But that's my teacher, and she's going to be grading it. So what do I do? I'm stuck, and that's a problem for me. That's really a problem. So I tried my best to work around certain things, but students should not have to be caught in that kind of drama. Really, really shouldn't. So all right. So that's it for the reports. Thank you for allowing my rant a little bit. Oh gosh, guys, but you understand. I really do want to see students succeed, and it's when situations like this arise, they create some challenges. And and this is only the one student who came to me, and I'm working with him. And then when we work together, his teacher gives him, 9 out of 10, and he's scoring really well because I go through all the details and I explain. But then when the teacher gives him the context and the information from this textbook, no, it doesn't quite work out as well. So all right, enough of me on my soapbox and the report writing. But I hope you understood what I said about the prompts and the main parts of the prompts so that you have the details and you know how to work with that. If you don't have a copy, you can get them. SEA Peacefield Approach has copies as well as on my website. Okay, so let's move on to the narratives. And I'm not going to spend too long on narratives today because a lot of this week, what you're going to be doing is a revision of some things that were touched on before. So, um, let me see. So, the things that were touched on before. So, this week with the narratives, we're looking at problem solution, and that has to do with um, the idea of how you introduce problems in a narrative, how you get to the point of resolving them. Now, we have looked at those kinds of topics before. However, since it's such an important issue and we know how repetition works and we know how um, reinforcement works. So, like I said, the program that we're working with, our schedule for studying the narratives, goes in cycles. So we touch on the foundation and then we go forward, come back, go forward, come back, consistently reinforcing what students are working with, right? So I'm just quickly checking to tell you what episodes exactly that looked at the conflict, because we did touch on conflict quite early, actually. um all right, so we're talking about creating climax. That's episode 11. We're talking about, um, let's see, this one is characters, checklists. Um, so we have climax, we have plot points at episode 9, and conflict would be episode 7 and 6. So you're going all the way back to the early part of what we looked at with the narrative writing. So we're looking at episodes 5, 6, 7, 11. Yeah, I think those are the ones you would really be going back to cover conflict. And let's see, so 6 would be importance of conflict. 5 would be story structure. 7, developing conflict, and everything to do with plot helps you with that development. So you're going all the way back there and you're checking in if you still need the reinforcement there. But with the problem solution issue, I know we spoke about cause and effect at some time in the past as well. What you're really paying attention to with the problem solution is that escalation of problem. So I was chatting with a student recently, and we had an example of, trying to get her to understand the 12-point plot development, because for me that is like the easiest way to get students to follow that step by step, right? And to really understand what's happening. So she gave me a scenario where she was at school. Her She lent a friend a pencil, and then the friend didn't want to give her back, and then things escalated from there. So that's the drama in the story. It's a simple thing, but what we were really paying attention to is how the story unfolded so that she could see the step by step progression. So you can start fairly simply just to get students to understand. And then what you do is to go the step by step after that. So when she said, okay, so she asked the student back for the pencil, her friend, and the friend said, no, I don't have it, I don't know what you're talking about. And then she said, well, okay, so she got upset, and then she asked them again, and then they said, okay, fine, sorry, and they gave it back to her. Now at that point, if that happens, story done. There's nothing else beyond that other than for her to say, well, okay, maybe she's not ever going to lend that friend a pencil again, because they didn't want to give her back. Too much drama. But in a case like that, that's going to be a very, very short story, too short for SEA style. And what's going to happen is that there is no rising action. Remember, I keep saying rising action is a result of conflict the characters face to achieve their goals. So understanding the conflict and the rising action and the presentation of the problems and then the reactions to that, definitely you want to do a review of that this week. So for reports, you're reviewing and analyzing prompts. For narratives, what you're doing this week is going back to that plot structure and understanding how that works. And this is the reason why I actually created the 12-point plot development, because students understand some things, but then they get stuck. And for that parent, every Monday, I send out in SEA Peacefield requesting questions, so that I can address any questions during the live. And one person responded and to say that, and this is something that I've heard before, as I mentioned, lots of parents have told me this before. Students are able to tell stories orally, but when it comes to putting it down on paper, they get kind of lost, and then the story seems like it has no end. It doesn't seem like it's going anywhere, or then there's a lot of excitement, and then it ends abruptly. And so there's a lot of challenges with organizing and structuring the idea, right? So, how do you work around that? How do you get students to recognize what to put and where, and how to develop their story effectively? 12-point plot development. That's the reason that was created, to help students with that. So, let me share something with you. I share it a little bit from time to time, but it's such an issue that I actually created a short course on it. And there's the URL to find the course, but you can just go to my website and let me just share that and show you, because you really do want to have information that you could go back to and keep helping you with the reinforcement. And the plot development structure, this 12-point plot development structure, is not just for organizing the info in step by step. It actually helps you with knowing how to include setting and character description, how to include the physical description of characters. It gives you ideas about that too. Because, right, so when you go to the website, you can click resources, and then in the resources is the first one. And for this one, what you're getting is you're getting the poster, you're getting the flashcards, and you're getting the online support. So the online support includes a series of videos. So you have instructional videos plus a worksheet plus an experiment, because remember I said I work with multisensory learning to help students really understand the narrative writing in particular, to really help them understand the narrative writing effectively. So the so you get the videos, what makes a story great, elements of the plot explained. There's an experiment and there's a video on that with explanation. There's practice plotting stories video, 12-point plot development video. So elements of plot explained, and that's like in general. And then you get the step-by-step 12 points explained. Then you have a worksheet for practice with the 12 points, and then notes on fiction subgenre. Subgenre is, those are like the different categories, what we call loosely types of stories, like science fiction, fantasy, and so on. I believe understanding what goes into each of them helps students organize their ideas as well. So that's included here. And once you get this, you can keep working with it. You have the poster that you can, put up near where the child is studying. You have the flashcards that they can flip through and work with, because we want to have it tangible as well, so that students can have that multisensory aspect to the learning. So it's not just what they see and hear and write. We have things they can touch, things they can do, experiences that they can have to really help them enhance their learning. Now, of course, this is ideal for standard fours who are now learning about writing stories, but if you have a standard 5 student who is stuck and their stories aren't structured or organized, then this is something that you'd want to get for them as well, because it's really going to help. And as we're talking about the problem and the solution, if you look at, now you're not really seeing all of it here, but certainly if you get a copy, you can have that idea of what goes into each of these points. So you get an explanation of what the red dots are, what the yellow dots are, what you put in each of these, why there's a purple dot here, how come number 10 is orange. And so we have some explanation happening there that I think really would help. So it's not just about, okay, we have a conflict and then we have a um reaction to that conflict, but there's a particular way and a kind of alternating way that the story would be organized to get that problem solution kind of feeling as you develop. So overall there's a problem and there's an overall solution, but how do we get there and how do we develop in each of those areas, right? So that's the kind of thing that you want to work on this week with your child or your students. Revisit conflict, all the different types of conflict. Revisit reactions. How is a character meant to react? What are readers looking for? And you're looking at that problem solution. Is the problem strong enough? Is the solution sufficient to match the problem? Is the problem too strong? Is the solution like overkill? So how do you get that kind of balance? Those are the kinds of things that you're talking about during this week, making sure students understand that problem solution kind of approach. And again, cause and effect, problem solution, and then ultimately what the climax works with, as well as how you move from problem to climax, all detailed in that 12-point plot course. And once you get access to the course, you get the details. But we have already covered quite a lot of that. So my recommendation this week is, if you're not familiar with it or you need a quick refresher, go back to the previous episodes. And like I said, I think we're working with like from episode 5 going all the way back there to get to the conflict and so on. So double check those. You can also check my Facebook page with Coach Youth. Scroll through. There were my assistant did some short clips on a few things. So you would possibly get a few clips from those if you don't want to have to go through the whole video. But that's what I would recommend this week. So what we're doing, excuse me, what we're doing this week and for the rest of the term, really, is that we're kind of revisiting a few things and tightening up student understanding of these issues. And then we're going to begin putting things together. So from next week, for example, we'd be looking at combining things. So we're going to be starting writing then, and then there's the after that we'll do like checklist and then strategies for editing and so on. Because what we're preparing for at this point is we're preparing for drills. Excuse me. So we're preparing to have students really from like at the end of this term, I'm going to be doing some drill sessions in December, because at that point, students should be fully aware. They know what they're doing. They have the background. They've done lots of practice. They know the stuff inside out. And now we're going to be drilling, writing reports regularly, writing narratives regularly, and we're shifting from understanding um to what you call it, I guess, analysis and feedback, right? So we're shifting from exploration and understanding to analysis and feedback. And this is our transition by, just doing this review and combining things. That's how we're working. So all right, so that is it for the report writing and the narrative writing. And like I said, I wanted to just touch in with a little bit of an understanding of, um, I guess, well, it's fixing sentence problems, and the two main problems students have with sentence structure. We're not talking grammar in particular, we're talking how the sentence is put together. The two main problems that students have with that are sentences that run on and on and on and feel like they don't want to stop, and sentences that are incomplete, right? So we call those sentence fragments, and um, they run on sentences. So what I wanted to do was just to give you an idea of how to identify them and a quick couple of tips about how to fix them, because based on what they are, you'd get an idea of how to fix them. And remember, I said we're working with starting with the ideas, right? Always remember we're working with the students' ideas and how they can work with that. So, okay, so let's just take a quick look at problems in sentences. And so we're looking at run-on sentences. And this is when the student is just like continuously, they're saying things and the ideas just seem to flow one after the other without appropriate punctuation and conjunctions to separate the ideas properly. And so what we say is that the ideas run on one after the other, and that's why it's called run on sentences. Some people call them fused sentences. So if you want, you could search that up as well. You'll get some really awesome ideas on how to deal with it. But you can actually do a Google search on run on sentences and get lots of worksheets and so on to help you. So here's how you know. Do your sentences allow time for readers to process the information they are reading? If no, then it's a run on sentence. Are we just like dumping information? Um, do your sentences have two or more independent clauses joined? Not all sentences are going to be simple sentences or short sentences. We do want complex and compound sentences as well. But complex and compound sentences have specific guidelines for punctuation and conjunctions that are used. So if you have two or more independent clauses, and those are like, you have subject and verb, different subjects, different verbs, two or more in that one sentence, chances are that sentence is going to be a run on if it is not joined effectively with conjunctions and punctuation, right? Did you forget to end with a full stop? Sometimes students forget. They're writing quickly. So check that. Do you have a comma instead of a full stop when the idea has very clearly ended? And can you identify more than one verb in your sentence and more than one subject? That has a lot to do with point two with the independent clauses. If you can pay attention to it, you could have a run on sentence. Um, do your sentences take up 3 or 4 lines? So yeah, at the SEA level, we really don't want one sentence with, 3, 4, 5 lines, one sentence. We're running into trouble there. Regardless of how large the student writes, if you enter 4 and 5 lines, pay attention. That sentence could be run on. We want to make sure it's joined effectively with the punctuation and the conjunctions, or just break it up into two sentences, right? So that's the run-on sentence aspect of sentence problems. And after going through all of that, you would have heard me say things like, you know, separate it, fix the sentences with the conjunctions and the punctuation. So those are the ways you really fix run-on sentences. But of course, you start with the idea and make sure you know what is the idea that you're trying to share in this sentence. Is it too much information? And that's why this one is number one. Are you giving readers time to process the information? So you actually have to start with, I'm writing for somebody else. And am I giving this person too much information? Read the sentence out loud. Do you have to take a breath to read it? Take more than one breath to read this sentence? Then check it out. There could be something wrong with it. Um, Conjunctions help us pause, punctuation helps us pause, and that allows readers to really digest the information, make sense of what they are reading. So you don't want to just have words thrown at people. Punctuation and conjunctions, sentence structures are given for a reason, particularly commas and end of sentence punctuation. There's a reason for them, not just to be grammatical, but they're used to help readers understand what you're trying to say. And so when you help students understand that, hey, kid, you're not writing for yourself. I have to read this. I don't know what you're saying here because it's like too much at me at once. So let's see if we could break it down. Go through. All right, no, stop here. I could read that, understand that, and keep going. So, get your young writers to think about the audience they are writing to and how the audience is going to be receiving their information. And that's going to help a lot with their run on sentences. Now, let's move on to sentence fragments. So, sentence fragments are like on the opposite side of sentence problems from the run on. So instead of having too much information, we don't have enough. So sometimes ideas come so quickly when people are writing that they don't complete one idea before moving on to another. Readers might see part of an idea, then a full stop. That creates a sentence fragment. It's called a fragment because it's only part of an idea, not a complete idea. And the thing is, sentence fragments happen most often when students begin with coordinating conjunctions, like because and while and after, before, and those kinds. Um, we call them transition words. They do function as transitions, but they also, I said coordinating conjunctions, I meant subordinating conjunctions. Sorry about that. So, subordinating conjunctions, right? Yeah, I'm going to put that up just to make sure. Subordinating conjunctions, that's it. So, a lot of times, we have things like, after the the person screamed, full stop. And you read it and you think, yeah, what happened after? Not a complete sentence. It's not a complete idea. I don't know what's going on. So these are the kinds of ways that you recognize the sentence fragments. So do your sentences have a subject and a predicate with a verb? Sometimes you might have a verb missing. Sometimes you might have the who missing. Even if it's like a declaration kind of sentence, or command, you're less likely to be using a command in a report or a narrative for SEA unless it's in reported speech or it's in direct speech for the narrative. So if it's a story, then you're not going to have a command by itself from the narrator. You would have it probably in a sentence or in dialogue or something. So it's important to check for those kinds of things. Um, does your sentence begin with a subordinating conjunction? I mentioned that one already. Does your sentence begin with a coordinating conjunction like and or but? Now, this one is kind of a bit of a contention because in our part of the woods and for primary school children, we tell them absolutely do not begin a sentence with and or but. We don't want you to begin a sentence with a conjunction ever unless it's a subordinating conjunction, which makes it the beginning of a dependent clause, and we have all kinds of rules and so on. In the real world, you can actually begin with and or but. However, it's used mainly in storytelling for emphasis, and for the SEA style narrative, just have students avoid that. Don't, if that happens, then no, add something, fix that sentence. Um, does your sentence begin with a verb or a preposition, right? Walking home with friends. That's either continuous verb or gerund. Watch television all night. Past participle of a verb. That's an incomplete fragment there. To walk home with a friend, that's the infinitive form of the verb. At the beginning of class, that's a preposition. So you have some ideas about, is incomplete. And that kind of thing can happen if we look at these examples. That kind of thing can happen if a student is writing, and some students, as a student once, um it's like, why is this in a sentence by itself? You say, well, miss, the other sentence was too long, so I just put a full stop and continue it in a new one. Yeah, because students themselves sometimes recognize, okay, yeah, the sentence is getting a bit too long. But if you do that, in the next sentence, you have to make sure that next sentence is a complete idea as well. It's not a matter of just adding the rest of it. If you're starting anew, which would be after a full stop, then you have to give a complete idea, and you might even be able to add in a few more details. So that's something that definitely you would need to pay attention to. So, all right. So there's this. So these are the ways that you can identify problems with sentences. And the two main problems that we looked at would be fragments or run-on sentences. Many students, even really good writers, can fall prey to that kind of thing, especially the run-on sentence. Students who are trying to be dramatic can run into problems with the sentence fragment, because again, in the real world, if you're writing a novel or something like that, it's fine. And they may have seen it in books that they've read, but that's not something you want them practicing for SEA. So just be mindful of that. And if they say, well, why? Well, here's what, this is an exam. Let's just pass the exam, okay? Let's not wait until we, get to the exam and realize, okay, no, this is not a requirement. It's an exam. Yes, we're learning how to write stories. Yes, we're learning how to write reports. But these are, and I keep repeating it, you notice every time I mention it, I say SEA style reports, SEA style narratives. These are not the only formats for reports and narratives. They are peculiar and directly related to this exam. While you will use the skills that you're learning in many different places, what you're writing for this exam is for this exam. So remind the student, hey, this is an exam. You want to pass? You want to get good marks? Do this. You want to write well, get good marks at school, end of term, etc. Yeah, do this. Outside, when you're writing your novel and you're going to get published, you fit within different conventions for those things. Um, so that's the idea, right? If you want to get a copy of this, I don't know if it's in, the document that I was just sharing. I don't know if it is in SEA Peacefield, but you can check. Just do a search for um, sentence problems, identifying sentence problems. I'll check. After this session, I'll check. If it's not there, I'll put a copy. Or you can message me. Yeah, message me and I'll send you a copy. I think that could work as well. So WhatsApp contact. Yeah, I need to make sure I put this properly, right? So that you can reach out if you have any questions or any comments. And please, every Monday before the sessions, so these sessions, these lives are every Tuesday, 11 to 12, 12:15. Um, every Monday in SEA Peacefield Approach, and on my profile, I try to put a reminder that requests if you have any questions, and I'll address them in the live. I don't always remember to put it on my profile or Wood Coach Youth, but it always goes up in SEA Peacefield. So post your questions there. If you're not already a member of SEA, the Peacefield Approach, on Facebook, it's an absolutely awesome group. I cover creative writing and I do quite a lot. I actually did I gave feedback and marked a few well, one report, one narrative, I think. And so you could see the marking and the grading and what ideas for improvement and that kind of thing. Well, marking but not grading because I don't put marks. I will only start giving marks after we complete this term. So from January, I'll start giving students marks. But for now, we're learning, so we're just, exploring ideas. So yeah, reach out, let me know. Um, for the past papers, if you really want to get a good sense of the ELA, you can get the past papers off of my website. These are, let me just go to the link and download them. If you're looking for solutions to the ELA, then there's a small cost to that because what I did was I went through and I gave the answers plus an explanation for each answer. And then I grouped it according to section so that you can do a study of poetry to see the kinds of questions that come. You can do a study of the grammar to see the kinds of issues that come up. And so the information is on that site. So once you go to the link, you would see. But of course, if you're really interested, just WhatsApp me and I'll send you all the information that's necessary. All right. So I think that's about it for today. And I do appreciate those of you who are able to um, stay with me to the end. I know if you have questions and you have concerns about what's happening, please send me a message and I'll do the best that I can to within the time because we're already 12:12 when I started. I'm so proud of myself. I started on time today. Um, so we've been at it for a little over an hour now. It's a bit long, I know, but remember we're touching on three different things, so it's going to take some time. But you can always go back. The recordings are all there and you'd get all the information. So, and of course, remember I know there's a lot of information out there, but please be careful with what you're studying and those textbooks that you are appreciating so much. There's some really good ones. I know Anne Jacob has her book out, and she is like a whiz when it comes to creative writing. Writers Plus, if you've ever heard of that, that's an awesome group to join as well. They deal specifically with creative writing, and she has a whole series. She has a textbook, lots of stuff happening there. So I'm not just saying, okay, be careful with people's textbooks, so buy mine. There are other good resources out there, but you do have to pay attention to what these resources are telling you, what's the reason, how is this working? Ask questions. And of course, I have my own resources, and mine go into a lot of details and following the multisensory learning because, like I said, I work primarily with students who are struggling. So, just as straightforward, this is the organization, doesn't quite work with them. So, we need visuals, we need activities, we need practical things. And so that's why my textbooks are in three pieces where you have a text, a journal, and the writing practice. And so, if you want to learn more about that, working with students who have challenges, how you can get your creative writing up to your instruction with creative writing up to a standard that you can really support and help students who are struggling, students who learn differently, then join me in December. I'm going to be doing teaching report writing and teaching narrative writing, multisensory way, fun and interactive way, and I'll be sharing with you all my resources that I have available that I can right now. So if you sign up for the narrative program, you get a copy of the flashcards and the poster and those videos. So you get that whole package. If you sign up for the report writing, you get the textbooks and all the accompanying things. And yes, I am working on the textbooks for the narratives and for teaching imagery and descriptive writing that is coming in. I'm working on one. You see, I'm working on too many things at once. I need to choose one and just finish, right? Um, but I'm working on a poetry book as well, plus spelling work. But with the spelling ones, I'm getting help, and my colleague and I were almost finished with the first worksheet. I'm so excited to share that with you guys. But give me till month end and let's see, some good stuff happening behind the scenes. All right, lots of good things for you to work with. So thank you again, and I really do appreciate your comments. Send me a WhatsApp message, send me a messenger message. Keep in touch, and I'll help you as best as I can with the creative writing and now comprehension. So, oh, if you want me to do a comprehension class for students in December, let me know. I'm going to put a poll out in SCA Peacefield to see because it's something that I'm considering, and you let me know. All right. So have a wonderful rest of the day today. Enjoy your week. And I look forward to seeing you next week, Tuesday, when we work on Journey to SCA 2024 again. All right. Take care, everybody.